His Olympic dream. Next challenge and a shot at glory. Games of the 24th.
It is just after 1 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. I'm Brian Williams. Welcome back live to the Games of the 24th Olympiad here in Seoul, the day of the Ben Johnson tragedy. We've been on this story now for about 4 hours. We obviously will continue to cover it, bring in Canadian people for their reaction. Also, we must not lose sight of the fact there are some Canadian athletes competing, a cyclist doing very, very well, Scotty Olsen and Egerton Marcus in boxing. So what we are going to do is stay on top of the Ben Johnson story, but at the same time, bring you up to date on our Canadian competitors. Joining me live in the studio, Canada's chef de mission, you saw her at the news conference, Caroline Letheren from Toronto, and Bill Stanish, our chief medical officer, who's from Dalhousie University in Halifax. Caroline, let me begin with you, and I know this is tough, but can you relate for the people when you first found out and what it was like? What was Ben's reaction, the Canadian reaction?
Well, we found out at 1:45 a.m. on Monday morning. The process is a letter is delivered to you from the IOC Medical Commission. So obviously I was woken from sleep and the letter was delivered. At the moment the letter was delivered, obviously there was no way I was headed back to bed. So I woke Bill up and the two of us roamed the village for a few hours until we felt it was a reasonable time to wake others up.
This is Bill Stanish.
Yes, it is. We had, at that time we did not talk to Ben. We met with the team manager, Dave Lyon, and Ben's coach, Charlie Francis, and we broke the news to them at 7 in the morning.
What did Charlie say?
Charlie was shocked. Charlie was in a state, I think, of disbelief would be a good word. He tried with us to piece the puzzle together of anything that may have occurred or may have happened. And I would say the conversation went the full gamut in the course of about 30 minutes.
All right, that was 24 hours ago, more than 24 hours ago. That was Monday morning here. This is now Tuesday. When did you first confront Ben? When did you first see Ben? When was he told?
Ben was told by his coach and the team leader first. We did not confront Ben first. That's an opportunity we offer to any coach or team leader. It's their choice. We are prepared to talk to the athlete, but it is their choice, and they chose to do it. The first time that I actually first confronted or talked to Ben directly was during the afternoon's deliberations that we had on the subject.
This is yesterday?
This is on Monday afternoon.
Yep.
And I would say probably the most emotional time was last evening, or actually early this morning at 3:30, when we finally had the final verdict from the IOC Medical Commission. And we visited, both Bill Stanish and I visited Ben in his room with his family and his support personnel, and at that time had to give him the news.
This is a tough question, Bill, but what was the reaction from the family, from Ben? Disbelief? Were they stunned? Were they?
Both. Basically numbed by the entire experience, the tragedy of it all. You certainly had the feeling that the gravity of the circumstance had yet to filter through.
There's an emotional angle to this as well as the medical angle. I mean, we're dealing, you know, with someone's life here. I don't know if you can answer this question, but it seems to me Ben did not act alone. I'm not sure if anyone has any proof there were other people, but I would be willing to bet Ben Johnson did not act alone.
We don't have any data to that effect. We are dealing with the information that has been given to us by the IOC Medical Commission. They have told us very firmly that they have denied our counterpoint, which we delivered last evening.
Which was again?
Well, it was in fact that we took it at face value that the coach and the athlete felt that his equipment had been potentially aggressed, and in fact, if there's perhaps tampering, that was the only way or the only artery we had to perhaps get recognition by the IOC Medical Commission that perhaps there had been some wrongdoing.
You're the chief medical officer. I'm a layman. Is it possible, is there any remote chance of tapering or tampering?
Oh, indeed there is. And particularly when you're dealing with this event, which was in fact the premier event of the Olympiad, the crowd control was just terrible. In fact, areas that our athlete was resting after his event, after the world record, in which it's to be cut off from anybody other than those that have a doping pass. We have good information from several sources that that area was traversed.
All right, but again, Olympic officials say they're convinced beyond any shadow of a doubt. There's no way there could have been tampering. Do you buy that?
Well, in fact, they are the ultimate power. We do not have any recourse or any abilities to suggest that they're wrong, and we just have to live with that. In fact, there will be many facts, no doubt, that will filter through over the next 5 to 6 months, and we'll deal with those accordingly.
Caroline, let me ask you, I want to talk about our Canadian athletes, what the mood in the village was when they first found out. Let me take you back, though, to when Ben and his family met with you. Was it announced then that he was going home? He left here about 2 hours ago for New York. What did they say? Did they give you any indication what was going on? Because I understand the Canadian Olympic Association helped him get his flight home. Is that correct?
That's correct. No, when we met with Ben last evening and broke the news to him and to his family, there were a couple of things that definitely had to be done. One is a very unfortunate job that we had to perform is we had to ask Ben for the gold medal back, which was probably one of the toughest moments in this whole exercise. Ben turned it over very freely, and I must also say that when we first went in the room, Ben reached out and shook our hands, so he handled it in a way that I think he deserves credit for. We did assist them, we spoke with them and told them that we would provide them with the best security we could possibly provide them, and also as expedient a set of arrangements as we could to move them quickly home. Ben wanted to go home.
That's my next question. It was Ben's decision to go? I mean, was he
Ben wanted
ordered to go?
Home. Ben would have had to go home in any event. The Canadian Olympic Association, indeed the Canadian Olympic team, does have a policy that any member who is in violation of one of the IOC regulations will have to be removed from the Olympic team.
To whom did Ben give the gold medal?
He handed it to me.
Did he say anything?
No, Ben said very little in the room. His eyes and his body posture certainly said a lot, but Ben himself did not articulate anything.
All right, it's tough enough for you dealing with Ben. When did you tell the Canadian athletes? You're the chef de mission. You've done a great job organizing them in one building out at the village. Did you call a meeting of the Canadian athletes during the night? Did you talk to them first, or did they hear about it on radio or television?
We haven't talked to the athletes as a group yet, and I don't think we will, Brian. Our policy always has been to work through the team leaders, because each of the sports is competing at a different time. There are different preparations. I mean, some of them are in the process right now of being potential gold medalists, and the last thing we want to do through a mass meeting is tamper with any of those performances. So what we have done is meet with our own staffs, both the mission staff and Dr. Stanish met with the medical staff, whom we've left in the village behind today, to ensure that the best possible atmosphere can be maintained. There's no question our challenge over the next few days is going to be to motivate the remaining athletes, excuse me, to do the best possible job they can.
Have you talked to any of them? I mean, there must be some that are absolutely stunned. What have you said to them?
They're all stunned and they're all devastated. All you have to do is walk into the village towards the Canadian building and you can feel it. You don't even have to see them. You know that it's really doom and gloom at that place right now.
Bill, from a medical point of view, is there anything more we should bring up? I mean, I know you were at the news conference. You've been good to come over here. You were on earlier. Anything that has not been said you feel should be said now?
No, I think that, in fact, the medical facilities here, the testing apparatus, the operations of Dr. Park and his lab have been first class. We don't have any disbelief about the fact that we've been dealt with in a fair fashion as far as the scientific component is concerned. We still are reeling somewhat from the fact that there was an area that was a protected area that was really aggressed and traversed by many people seeking photographs, seeking autographs, and so on, an appropriate area where our athlete could have been molested. It's a possibility. We're not suggesting it's a probability, but we really would like the organizing committee to be quite aware of the fact that we were dissatisfied with that component of the service.
Caroline, I think the last word should come from you. Anything you can say to the people watching tonight? Anything more you would like to say in closing? I know it's draining for you.
Well, I think to the people at home, I think if we could focus our energies on our remaining athletes' performances, and I think also understand that Ben's a human being as well as an athlete, and an athlete caught in a circumstance where other athletes have been caught as well. But he is first and foremost a human being, and I really would like people to remember that.
Caroline Letheren is our Canadian chef de mission. Thank you. Bill Stanish from Dalhousie University, the Canadian medical officer, chief medical officer with the Olympic team here in Seoul. Obviously, we are going to continue to follow this story. We will talk with other Canadian officials that are standing by, and we will cover our Canadian athletes as we continue on this Tuesday afternoon, Monday night back home, live from the games of the 24th Olympiad here in Seoul. Stay with us. We'll be right back after the Broadcasting Center.